Hey button pushers, my name is Nick and welcome back to the life and suffering of Sir Brante. And peacetime is done. It has been a hard fought battle, things have gone very wrong. We kind of started off pretty well and then it just crashed and just burned. I had a goal in mind when I started, which was to sentence the Anizotte. That has succeeded, so in that respect, tick. However, in the process of doing that, I have not only not got the family ennobled by the sword, also the family no longer speaks to each other, and Mum's dead. So, not overly successful in that respect, but you know what? Can't win everything. Also, the revolt is happening now. So, I have just sentenced Anizotte. There's been kind of revolts brewing in the background, and the last straw are about to come out the shadows and cause some havoc. I imagine I'm going to end up on the side of the revolt. Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it gives us a little recap on our stats as well. No. Oh god. Because I'm pretty sure willpower's a big problem.
The day has come which would decide my fate, as well as that of my family, and perhaps the entire Empire. The day of the revolt.
I'm very concerned about how this is going to go. Word about the sentence you passed upon the Archaean commander instantly spreads throughout Anizotte. The commoners are celebrating. For the first time, the law has proven to be more powerful than the ancient authority of the Archaeans. All over the city, triumphant crowds are assembling. The people praise Judge Brante and declare an end to their oppression. The outcries become more daring by the hour. Freedom from tyranny! Down with the noble yoke! The authorities anxiously observe the people's revelry. Borne receives orders from the magistrates to disperse the crowds with gendarmes, but he refuses to do so on the grounds that the people are unarmed and assembling peacefully. Vermin is livid. The animosity among the ruling circles is quickly transforming into naked enmity. Humiliated, Otten refuses to comply with his sentence and go into exile. The city's on the brink of a revolt. Whatever that dishonourable court may have decided, my duty is to remain in Margaret and stop this maddened mob. Damn it, Otten! The nobility of Anizotte eagerly gather under Otten's banners, outraged by his sentence. They assemble a militia, ready to quell the disturbance with force. The news that Otten has refused to comply with the court's sentence infuriates the common folk. The crowds in the squares become larger. Gangs of armed commoners take to the streets. Remy Vermin is already dead, his life taken by the verdict of the People's Court. He was strangled by the mob that broke into the city hall. The Chancellor's lifeless body now hangs just outside the window of his office for all to see. God damn! There's no stopping the revolt now. But you know that after Otten's trial, your name carries weight in the eyes of the commoners. How will you use their support at this crucial moment? Well, I mean, Vermin was a bit of a scumbag, so it's fine. Okay. Oh god. I am concerned. At dawn. For years now, Anizotte has been simmering like a cockpot over a slow flame. The powerlessness of the simple folk, unable to change the old order, has gradually given way to rage. Finally, this anger became stronger than their age-old submission to the higher estate and their fear of divine retribution. This rage was the spark that lit the fire of the revolt. All of Anizotte's commoners have risen up in rebellion. Workers, artisans, merchants, beggars, they all long to break free of noble tyranny and the perpetual suffering that is their lot. The most daring among them have joined the last straw. The secret society has sent entire squads of trained soldiers out into the streets. They hand out guns and bombs to the people, weapons that give them a chance to wage war on equal footing against noblemen descent from generations of warriors. But the most dangerous weapon the rebels possess is the People's Court. The commoners have claimed the right to sentence their enemies to true death. The first nobles executed by the last straw this very night served as proof that these sentences are real. For the first time in the history of the Empire, the divine force of the law is in possession not only of the noblemen, but also of the common estate. Among the rebels are many new believers. They're ready to take up arms and defend their faith and freedom from the lots. They're led by Lennart, the abbot of the temple by the Silver Tree. Prefect Borne's allegiance remains unknown. The Supreme Judge has taken such pains to give the lowly estate more rights. Will he support a revolt that strives to do the same? Anizotte has recently been rocked by a series of spontaneous assemblies and protests. The mob demands equal rights for all estates and freedom from the tyranny of the nobles. The authorities must recognise the new faith and grant the commoners the right to choose their own lot. By nightfall, the rebels have dispersed of the guards and taken over the city gates. In a matter of minutes, Anizotte was under their control. It's the duty of Overseer Gaius Tempus to crush the revolt. The Arknian nobleman feared for his own position and power, so he was reluctant to punish the rebellious city as discontent slowly grew year by year. But the ensuing uprising has left him no choice. The Overseer has announced a full-scale mobilisation. In the morning, the Legion will march towards Anizotte under his command and attempt to return the city to Imperial authority with fire and sword. The expeditious arrival of the Legion is the only hope that the nobles have left now that they're locked inside the city. Members of the higher estate, especially the old aristocratic families, fear the coming rampage and strive to keep order on the streets. Meanwhile, the Inquisition, led by Sister Jeanne, is trying to stop the new believers and urging the people to reject the revolt. Both groups are aware that if the rest of the province follows Anizotte into rebellion and chaos, the Empire itself and the Divine Order will begin to crumble. After nightfall, the city grows quiet. Its courtyards and squares are empty. In mansions and palaces, hasty negotiations are held, and schemes are concocted. In dark cellars, the revolt is being prepared, and armed units are gathering. Parishes are getting ready to defend the temples of the new faith against the Inquisition. All citizens, rich and poor, common and noble, are arming themselves, some with ancestral swords and others with cleavers. Anizotte is preparing, waiting for the dawn. As the Legion arrives for the assault, the rebels assemble into a militia and get ready to fend off the Imperial army. But there's little unity in their camp. Their leaders are already mired in a power struggle. There are also defenders of the Imperial Order within the city walls, members of the old aristocracy, soldiers of the Inquisition, priests of the old faith, commoners unwilling to defy the law and the Twins' design. These people too refuse to lay down their arms. The first rays of the rising sun light up the horizon. This day will go down in history. Your entire life has led you to this moment. Step by step, you've made yourself the man you are now. Your actions today could alter the course of history. But are you ready to go the distance? What will have become of you by the time the sun sets? I'm probably going to be dead, just as a wild assumption. I don't know if I've actually ever got Dark Times. I've had True Death, I've had the Anizotte Massacre, and I've had Peace with the Overseer. So I still need the Legion is defeated, the city is defended, and the revolt is defeated. Okay, so there's still, if I do get a bad ending, it maybe isn't the worst thing in the world. I still don't know what side I'm on in this. Ah, my side is not chosen. Interesting. Interesting. I did wonder about where I was going to fit into this equation, but it appears not even Nicolaus Brante knows. Well, let's go find out. Oh, I'm going to die. Mustering the Forces. The crimson sun slowly rises above the horizon. You make your way through a city in chaos, carefully observing what's happening on the streets. The rebellion is flaring up again after a night of calm. Once again, the commoners are taking to the squares in droves. The grim resolve in the rebels' eyes speaks volumes. They're determined to seize their freedom or die trying. There are others, however, who are huddling inside their homes, locking their doors and praying to survive the revolt unscathed. With every passing minute, you see more and more people carrying banners. They bear a hand clutching a lantern, the mark of the last straw. The conspirators have left the shadows at last. They hand out guns to the common folk, using these last precious minutes to quickly teach them how to fire them. The artisans are out on the streets too, cobbling together makeshift shields out of wood and nails to protect against the nobles and their blades. Fortunately for the rebels, the nobles remain divided. The old noble bloodline have sided with Dorius Otten. The Arknian has sworn to bring down the revolt by any means necessary. His noble militia now stands guard in the Silver District, where the city's most eminent aristocrats have their homes. They represent the greatest threat to the revolt. Many nobles of the mantle, however, are all too eager to violate their oath of fealty and side with the rebels. Though ennobled to serve the Empire, they no longer want to suffer under the boot of the highborn Arknians and human gentry. But there are many more who are still undecided. Soldiers and low-ranking officers of the Legion from the city's garrison, officials and functionaries, they've all found themselves caught between the Overseer's orders and the People's Revolt. Many of them are biding their time, hoping the Legion or the Prefecture will spring into action and quell the unrest. But the Prefecture has yet to react. City Prefect Sir Borne still has not made it clear which side he's on. Even the clergy's been swept up in the strife. Abbot Leonard is gathering new believers for a procession to the Silver Tree, where the people will elect a new patriarch. Old believer priests and common folk who prefer to cling to the lots and save their souls stand in opposition. Even the Inquisition, whose duty it is to protect the Church and the Twin Gods against heresy, have been tainted by this schism. The true fight for the fate of Anizotte will begin in a matter of hours. You have had 8 years to curry influence among the people of this city. It's time to put your connections to the test. Who can you sway to your side? Who will be willing to sacrifice their lives and fight for your cause? How, for the love of God? Well, this gets me some willpower, so why can I not do anything? That's priest. Thomas needs to be alive. Lotless. Priest. Ennobled by the sword. Lotless. Okay, so the only one I could have potentially done here is incite the riot among the Legion troops, but, you know, Thomas is dead, so I'll just take some willpower, which was sorely needed, but still. This will be a long day indeed. It'll take all your wits and composure to do what must be done. You spend these last few hours of quiet biding your time and mustering your strength. You keep an ear to the ground and plan your next move. The timing for this respite could not have been more perfect. The storm is yet to come. Both the defenders of the Imperial regime and the rebels need time to gather their forces for the pivotal clash. Gaius Tempest and the Legion will not arrive in Anizotte until nightfall. Only then will the fate of the revolt be decided in the ultimate struggle. The Legion's already on the march towards the rebellious city. What can the rebels do to oppose it? Everything depends on how the conflicts of the day play out before the sun sets. The Prefecture and the gendarmes, will they pursue the rebels, or take their side? Leonard's procession of new believers to the Silver Tree, will the people elect their first patriarch? The disjointed groups of insurgents, will they be able to unite? And if so, who will unite them? Your thoughts are interrupted. The sound of gunfire fills the city streets again. The lull is over. You can wait no longer. Well, at least I have plus willpower now. That's, you know, something. Ooh, a fading light. So this is brand new. Good. The sun rises higher and higher. Your carriage is hurtling down the street, making its way through the crowd with great difficulty. Many barricades have appeared overnight, made of old boards and rotten trash. You've reached the Prefecture as soon as you can. The gendarmes and judges' reaction to the revolt could be decided at any moment. Any word from Sir Borne? No. Even the slightest sign from him could determine their allegiance. The Silver District is empty now, populated only by a searing wind sweeping light debris across the cobblestones. You smell smoke. A noble house must have been set on fire nearby. You hear hooves clattering in the distance. There's not a soul around. All you can hear is a fountain burbling in a small square, mixed with gentle, melodic laughter. You yell for the carriage to stop. Those graceful movements, that clothing, so light and airy, that thin, slender figure, playing and splashing in the water. The rays of the sun dance and glitter on its golden skin. Oh, she hates me now, though. The hot, carefree day flashes before your eyes, the sound of the carriage on the cobblestones, the handkerchief dropped on the ground. Does Octavia still remember how you first met? This creature, does it still have anything in common with the prideful Archean lady you met here all those years ago? The creature that was once Octavia is laughing, as though she cannot see the ruined streets around her. You come closer. You feel a strange, involuntary sense of calm next to this bizarre creature. There can be no hatred in her presence, no pain, no suffering. She raises her large, pitch-black eyes to you. Her voice rings with genuine elation. Do you see it all crumbling now? It's the old world dying, collapsing under its own weight. Do not fear it. It's not a bad thing. This is how it has to be. You live in the dream of the one called Octavia Melanidas, human who bears the name of Brante. This dream will end soon, and then it will all be gone. Your empire, your estates, your lots, your shining pillar. And you, human named Brante, will be gone too. And the great mind of the Latari will leave this dream and move on, beyond all borders, beyond all limits. Oh, what great joy that moment will bring us. The creature that was once Octavia stretches her thin arms up towards the horizon, where smoke already wafts against the backdrop of the sky. The screams of the rioting crowd are drawing closer. This being is not of this world, and it's utterly helpless, especially here in Anizotte in the middle of the rebellion. The fate of the woman you knew as Octavia Melanidas is in your hands now. Ah! Oh, wow. Hand her over to the Inquisition. Okay, get her out of the city, I need to not be a rebel, and Otter needs to like me. So, if I'd have gone down the Latari route, then I could share a final moment with her before she leaves this world. Okay, we're going to come back and do that at some point. I've already made a note of this Latari route that I want to do, so that should be interesting. Okay, so part ways with her. The destiny of this transcendent creature is none of your concern now, or hand her over to the Inquisition. Well, you know what? She already kind of hates me, and I have nothing to lose by handing her over, I guess. And I could do with clergy, I guess. Okay, we're gonna get another ending with Octavia at some point. So yeah, we'll do the dick move at the moment. The inner calm you felt is suddenly replaced by worry. It's not for you to admonish Octavia. She strayed too far down her forbidden path. Dragging Arcanian and human souls away from the foot of the pillar is the lot of priests. Only they can help her now, and so you place both hands on Octavia's slender shoulders and guide her to your carriage. The creature offers no resistance. Wherever you take me, human named Brante, we will remain where we are, watching your world melt away before your very eyes. You tell the flabbergasted driver to take you to the Inquisition ward. The moment you step out the carriage, Jen's familiar figure emerges from behind the ward's tall fence. She's accompanied by several grim-looking champions of faith. Judge Brante, if you have business with the Order, you'd better be quick. We need to put an end to Lennart's madness and his procession. You explain the reason for your arrival. You found the daughter of Archduke Melanidas. She strayed from the church, allowed the Latarian heresy to beguile her, and altered her body and mind to resemble the enigmatic extinct race. Jen's exhausted eyes grow brighter. The Archduke's daughter? Sir Brante, it's a good thing you brought her to us. If the people had heard that even the Arcanians had succumbed to heresy, the city would have strayed even further from true faith. Your deeds fill me with hope, Judge Brante. I knew there was a reason I approached you beneath the tree all those years ago. Know this, when the time comes to unite the city against this rebellion, the clergy and the Inquisition will support you. The champions of faith lead Octavia away. Golden Creature's thin, fragile figure disappears behind the tall fence. But the last thing she just said is still echoing in your mind. Abandon your attempts to change this dying world, human named Niklaus. They will only prolong your suffering. You shake your head and return to reality. Borne, the Prefecture, you need to hurry. Okay, maybe that was okay. I don't bloody know. Ba-bow. Sir Elborne's choice. It's noon. A large crowd has gathered in the Prefecture Square. The gendarmes form a line in front of the stairs, clutching their cudgels nervously. The commoners keep coming. The mob keeps growing. They call out of the windows to the Prefecture. Their screams are deafening. Elborne sides with the people! Gendarmes, judges, join us! The people need you! It's now or never! The rebelling citizens demand that the Prefect take a side. The decision must not be made without you. You have to get inside. You push your way through the dense crowd until you reach the gendarmes. Ah, Sir Brante, I thought you'd been captured. Men, let the judge through. Tell the judges to make up their minds. The people haven't attacked us yet, but you never know. The main hall of the Prefecture is stuffy and crowded. The din of voices is as loud here as outside. Almost every judge in the province is here now, save for those who stayed home or fled the city in advance. Most of them demand that the Prefect disperse the crowd. Augustine Elborne is on the podium in the courtroom, looming above the indignant judges. No, I will not sick the gendarmes on the people. It is the Prefecture's duty to listen to the Emperor's subjects, not force them to be silent. If we disperse this crowd, it will only fan the flames. And what of the Overseer's orders, Sir Prefect? We have to quash the revolt while we still can. Tell the gendarmes to do their duty and protect the city from these riots. Or do you want this so-called People's Court to hang us all? You've forgotten about the last straw and that freak Sophia. They're executing people left and right, as though they're wielding the divine law. Do you really think you'll be spared? The judges applaud Folkgraven, even those you believe to be the Prefect's most ardent supporters. This unrest needs to be quelled with words, not clubs. If we turn this demonstration into a bloodbath, there will be no stopping the carnage. Elborne tries to respond, but cries of outrage drown out his words. The Prefect frowns in consternation. The wrinkles on his forehead grow deeper. He casts another glance around the courtroom and notices you standing in the door. Okay, so await the decision, which ups the revolt to my willpower. Convince Elborn to side with the rebellion, which puts me on the side of the rebellion, which I think is okay. Support Elborn's plan, which again, I don't choose sides, the revolt goes down, nobles go down, common folk goes up, or condemn Elborn, and I get the Defender of the Empire Destiny. Interesting. Okay, right, let's check the Destiny page quickly. Okay, well, last time I got peace with the Overseer, so let's try the Legionist defeated this time. So, I need to be leading the revolt needs to be above 6, troops needs to be above 2, common folk needs to be 3. I feel like siding with the rebellion is probably a good thing to do, so revolt needs to go up by 2, troops needs to go up by 1, common folk only needs to go up by 1. Okay, so convincing Elborn to side with the rebels. Ups my revolt to 5, which is good. Ups my troops to 2, which is perfect. And ups my common folk to 3, which is perfect. And nobles go down by 1, which is okay. But I'm pretty sure I didn't need nobles. Yeah, I'm rebellion. Of course I didn't need nobles. Taking over the revolution is going to be tricky, but we'll see. You start elbowing through the agitated crowd of judges and make your way up to the podium. You stand to Elborn's right. He acknowledges you with a friendly nod. Let Judge Brante speak. You address the judges. It's the Prefecture's duty to mete out justice. The common people of Anizotte have rebelled not because they're disobedient, but because of the judges' hypocrisy and the nobles' tyranny, because the law has been flouted at every turn. This is why all of us, the judges, the gendarmes, the entire Prefecture, must demand true justice from the Imperial regime. We must join the people and fight for it. You turn to Elborn. It's time for the highest judge in Margaret to proclaim that the Prefecture has sided with the revolt. Elborn is stunned. The judges watch the podium with sheer terror in their eyes. Traitors! To arms! A dozen judges unsheath their swords and rush to the podium, with Folk Raven in the lead. You barely manage to draw your blade in time to deflect their furious blows. Brante, move back, to the wall! Elborn draws his sword and comes to your aid. He clearly struggles to wield his blade, but together the two of you manage to fend off your attackers. Sir Prefect, hold on, we're coming! The gendarme captain runs into the courtroom, followed by his subordinates. The defiant judges, now greatly outnumbered, have no choice but to lower their weapons. They glare at you and Elborn, their eyes brimming with hatred. There are so many of them. So many judges who will never forgive your betrayal. You've betrayed the Empire today, Prefect. You betrayed your own estate and your very honour. And it's all thanks to this upstart Brante. You'll pay for this. Elborn turns his back on the captive judges and begins giving orders to the gendarmes. Jail anyone who drew his sword on me and Sir Brante. As for the rest of the judges, you are still my subordinates. You may either follow my orders or join Sir Folkgraven in the dungeon. You, Elborn, and the gendarmes leave the courtroom and walk out onto the stairs in front of the building. The judges who've chosen to side with you follow you awkwardly. The prefect casts his gaze over the people gathered before him. The mob has grown to fill the entire square, spilling out into the adjacent streets. People of Anizotte, I, Prefect Augustine Elborn, on behalf of all the judges and gendarmes of Anizotte, say this. We stand with the revolt. The mob explodes into deafening cries of elation. The judges are with us! Hooray for Elborn! Hooray for Brante! We'll win our freedom yet! Well, at least we avoided a bloodbath. What now, Sir Brante? What are your orders? You're about to respond to the gendarme captain, but are cut short. You hear hooves clacking towards the square, coming from the Silver District. The people at the edges of the mob begin screaming in terror. Confusion and fear ripple through the crowded square. The rioters are coming. It's on in his noble militia. Well, I wondered if this was still going to be a thing. Turns out it is. Okay. Rebellion! Okay. So we're going for military victory. So I just need to get revolt up by 1, and I need to be leading the revolts. Which is my biggest concern. The Prefecture under siege. The searing sun looms high in the sky above the rebellious city. The square in front of the Prefecture is packed with commoners. Just a moment ago, they boldly demanded that the judges and gendarmes side with the rebellion. But now, they're terrified. They fear the noble army that's coming for them. Their calls of rebellion are gone, replaced by frightened screams. Hooves thunder against the cobblestones, the earth quakes beneath their feet. The noble militia, led by Dorius Otten, carves a path through the human sea. The terrified rebels scatter as the riders approach. The gendarmes remain where they are, forming a tight circle around the Prefecture and Borne. The Prefect calls out to the crowd, his voice hoarse. "Everyone stay calm, let them through, do not draw your weapons." Otten's riders push the mob aside and eventually reach the tall building. The Archnean commander draws in his reins only when the gendarmes are all that separate him from the Prefecture's stairs. "Prefect Borne, how dare you disobey the orders of the province's rightful rulers? You have abused your position to appease the rebels and defy imperial rule. This inconceivable rebellion is your fault. It's time for you to accept your well-earned punishment. In the name of Archduke Melanidas, I hereby order you and your gendarmes to surrender your weapons." The Supreme Judge of the Prefecture maintains his composure in the face of this recrimination. "I only obey the laws of the Empire, Sir Otten. Not you, or your runaway Archduke." Otten's face contorts into a predatory grin. "Excellent. You've had your chance to save face, old man. Instead of a dignified execution, you and your cronies will hang, like the foul rabble you've betrayed us for." Otten lifts his sword skyward, prepared to order an assault. The riders behind him are about to attack. The gendarmes ready their clubs. Their hands are trembling. They'll not stand a chance against the noble cavalry. The mob begins to shift, about to flee the square. The fate of this moment hangs by a thread. So I can rouse the mob, which I have done before. That knocks my willpower down. Ooh, I can get Otten's army to abandon him. So that gets the revolt up, and the troops up, and the nobles and the common folk up. Brilliant. And it kills Otten. Amazing. Okay, so Otten's been stripped of his rank. He reasoned with the nobles and convinced them to abandon their leader. I would have liked to have done this, the challenge Otten to a duel, because I think that would have been quite cool, but Otten faces the Court of Honor. I needed to do that, and not be a rebel. Okay, so maybe we'll do that another time. Okay, let's get Otten's army to abandon him. Oh, achievement! To everyone's surprise, you walk confidently through the ranks of the gendarmes. The riders notice your raised arm and rein in their horses. The noblemen know who you are. You begin to speak, not to Otten, but to the militia. By the verdict of the imperial courts, Otten has been stripped of his rank in disgrace. He no longer has any right to command the militia. The law of the Empire has spoken. Why are they defying it? Flabbergasted at your audacity, Otten makes his horse prance, a menacing sight. Once a filthy commoner, always a filthy commoner, eh, Brante? Your preposterous verdicts mean nothing to true noblemen, and they never will. You already grin at his words. True noblemen are free to make up their own minds. Otten is not their master. The riders grip their reins, hesitating. You speak to them again. Soon the city of Anizotte will have a new order and new laws. There's no stopping it. Why follow a criminal and a fool who doesn't give a damn about their future? The revolt is about to prevail, and when it does, all who opposed it will hang. But those who accept the new order and fight for it will be pardoned. You swear on your noble honour. I vouch for the words of Judge Brante as the Prefect of Margaret. Surrender to us, good sirs, and your lives will be spared. Shut your traitorous mouth. Follow me, men. Cut these rebels down. The proud Archnean lifts his sword skyward and rushes at the gendarmes. Not one cavalryman follows him. Otten smashes into the gendarmes alone. He slices left and right with desperation so fierce. It almost seems as though he might be able to break through the gendarmes' defences single-handedly. But not even his skill as a swordsman is enough to oppose a company of trained men. In the end, Otten finds himself knocked from his saddle and shackled. Cowards! Turncoats! You're begging for mercy from this pitiful rabble? You'll die in dishonour and suffer forever at the foot of the pillar. But the noble militia has already made its decision. Their commander has been disgraced, and their morale has crumbled. The riders surrender their arms. Otten will not receive the same mercy. After his prior crimes, Dorius Otten has committed new offences against the subjects of the Empire. His final trial awaits. The Prefect turns to you. Judge Brante, you are familiar with Sir Otten's crimes. What is your verdict? You pronounce your sentence, which apparently people like. Otten is hereby sentenced to death by hanging. Let the people of Anizotte see that there is one law for all. The mob around you explode with elation at your words. Otten is stunned, shocked, unable to believe what's happening. He doesn't even struggle when the gendarmes throw the noose around his neck. The final realization dawns on the Archean nobleman at the very last moment. For the first time, terror flashes in his eyes. Brante! His neck snaps with a sickening thud. The Otten falls silent. Forever. Cheers. Cries of victory fill the square. You have executed not just an enemy of the revolt, but an Archean and the former High Commander of Margra. Your verdict inspires the people with a sense of solidarity. In the blink of an eye, they arm themselves with wooden clubs, heavy sticks, and makeshift spears. The most audacious among them awkwardly try on the noble surrendered swords. The common people form squads and choose you as their commander. But it's far too early to celebrate. You've only fought off one assault. Prefect Borne finds you in the boisterous crowd. They claps. Your courage has saved the Prefecture. I'm with you until the end. Whatever you need from me, you will have it. But we need to hurry now. The noble militia we've seen in the city pales in comparison to the forces of the Legion. I'll gather our forces of the Prefecture and establish a unified command structure. You should find Abbot Lennart and aid him in any way you can. His procession must be en route to the Silver Tree by now. The enemies of the New Faith are waiting there, weapons in hand. They'll massacre each other if we don't stop them, Brante. This city is a powder keg with a short fuse. More fire and blood is the last thing we need. What we need is more allies, and having Lennart on our side is crucial. We need a spiritual leader who can unite the city against the Legion. You nod to Borne. The fate of the feud between the two faiths hangs by the clash at the Silver Tree. You have to be there. You wish the Prefect best of luck with his work, then muster your loyal forces and head for the temple. Okay, so stat-wise, Revolt is perfect, Troops is above perfect, Nobles doesn't matter, Common Folk is perfect. So I think I need to bolster my willpower a little bit. But if I can do that, we should be able to take over the Revolt, because I think that needs 10 willpower. Ooh. I might need more scheming or manipulation, which could bite me in the anus, but we'll find out. The March of the New Faith. An enormous sea of humanity flows through Anizotte, filling the streets of the Temple District. They're led by Abbot Lennart. The new believers walk peacefully behind him, many of them women and the elderly. They're unarmed. Their faces show neither fear nor anger. They're so drastically unlike the throngs of rebels who are currently ransacking streets and looting noble houses. The procession slowly makes its way towards the temple at the Silver Tree. The temple has always been where the patriarchs of the church accepted their sacred duty, along with the heavy burden of responsibility for their flock before the twin gods. When a patriarch speaks, twins pay heed, and every 8 years, it falls upon the patriarch to proclaim in their sight how their world is humbly following the lot it's been given. Long, long after the twins descended to our world, the patriarchs came to be elected at the conclave by the clergy. This tradition has continued for many years. Today, dozens of priests have come to the temple in spite of the unrest to conduct the rites and spare the twins' world from their wrath. But now thousands of commoners are walking to the same temple to elect the new patriarch themselves. You and your followers take a side street to the temple, avoiding the immense procession. Soon, the square by the tree is packed, teeming, overwhelmed. But the stairs to the temple doors cannot be reached. A stalwart phalanx of champions of faith block the way, with Zhen in the lead. They're joined by the Inquisitors, those who have decided to walk the path of the old faith until the very end. I will not allow you into the temple, Lennart. These heretics will not make you patriarch. Father Lennart slowly begins to ascend the stairs. He doesn't argue with Zhen. The abbot simply faces her with a humble smile and gestures at the people standing behind him. Doubt clouds the champions' faces. Lennart's procession is truly staggering. Even if they're mere commoners, even if they're unarmed and empty-handed, there's simply too many of them to be stopped by a few dozen old believers. Sister Zhen, look at them. Are they truly heretics, all of them? They're just people, our brothers and sisters in faith. Why would the Inquisition treat us like enemies? We don't reject the twin gods. Nay, we seek them with our every thought. You rejected the laws of the Younger when you chose to seek your own lots. No, Zhen. The only thing we reject is Isatius' error. This argument has been going on for years, Lennart. I know each and every point you can make. Don't even bother. You will not enter this temple. And all these people, you're just dragging them to the foot of the pillar along with you. How can you still not understand this after so many years? What do you think you're doing, Leonard? Don't you fear the wrath of the gods? I do not yet. When I become patriarch, I will tell the twins that we still love and revere them, just as we always have, even as we seek a different path to them. The twins will hear us. They will listen. They will understand. There will be no wrath of the gods. The new believers heed Leonard's words. They begin to firmly ascend the stairs to the door of the temple. The champion's swords do not desert them. Jen watches the massive congregation approach her, her eyes filled with remorse. She raises an arm, about to give her final order. Champions of faith, protect the sacred temple, fight to the bitter end. You reach the foot of the stairs as she speaks these words. This is your last chance to intervene. Okay, so walking away does get me 2 willpower. Nope, 5 willpower. Or I can save the new believers from bloodshed, which, you know, I'm not doing. If I do that, which I'm not going to do, Father Leonard is defeated and Jen receives true death. Whereas walk away, which is what we know, which is what we did on our first playthrough when we reached the Revolt. Basically, they get into a massive scuffle. The twins don't like it. They cause a massive earthquake. The temple just outright collapses. Jen is buried alive, and Father Leonard gets killed. So I'm going to have to do this because I haven't been involved in their mess this entire time, so I'm not going to get involved now. Plus that bumps me up to 10 willpower, so good. Goody goody. Sorry that everyone has to die, but you know what? Not my problem. That's very callous of me, isn't it? But still. It's true. Okay. So as long as I can take over the revolt now, we are golden. The rebel leader. The sun is setting. The blood-red sky quavers in the hot smoke from the fires raging throughout the city. You can't help but recall a passage from the lives of the twins, one of the many pages Mother used to quote when you were a child. And the elder said, "Lo, I have cast a flame into this world, and I shall guard it until it begins to blaze." Could this passage be referring to today? You lead your followers to Empire Square. You walk around rubble, past abandoned carriages and unfinished barricades. There have clearly been clashes here recently. The dust of the departed is still rising into the sky. Thousands filled the square before the Chancellery, well over half the commoners of Anizotte. The Chancellery has been under rebel control since noon. All Imperial officers either fled or were torn apart by the mob. Scraps of rumours and gossip reach your ears as you move closer. Did you hear what happened at the Great Tree? It's the Inquisitors. They just started slaughtering folk. They grabbed them swords of theirs and started killing unarmed people. Leonard's procession made it into the temple. There was a sign from the twins. All lies. The twins got angry and destroyed them all under the tree. The temple's gone, I tells you. Gone for goods. The crowd is on edge. Any dispute could explode into a brawl. A voice from the Chancellery stairs calls for another people's court. The mob turns as one. Several last straw rebels drag a handful of well-dressed nobles out onto the steps and force them to their knees. The leader of the executioners is a preacher with a mane of unkempt hair and wild eyes of a lunatic. The younger he speaks through us, he does. He gave us the power of his law, the power to punish our enemies, to execute them. Anyone who stands in our way is an enemy of the twins themselves. People, it's time to judge these enemies of the simple folk. What is your sentence? The mob roars so loudly, the square shakes. Death. True death. The last straw rebels ready their guns. One of the captives gets to his feet and speaks out defiantly. We still don't know this person. We've been through like every route we can go down, pretty much. Well, there's still some. But we don't know this person. Are we meant to know this person? Are we ever going to get to know this person? I don't know. You dare call this pathetic freak show a people's court? You don't have the power. You never have and you never will. You think you can wield the law of the twins? Bah! We'll come back and we'll make you pay. Friedrich, you are wrong, my friend. The aged nobleman's last words are drowned out by a thunderous volley of gunfire. One by one, the nobles collapse, their bodies pierced by bullets. They remain where they fall. The mob gasps in amazement. There can be no doubt. The People's Court has the power to mete out true death at will. This is what will happen to anyone who dares to oppose us. All hail the revolt. All hail our leader. All hail Sophia. Sophia's gonna lead us. She's gonna fend off the Legion. She's gonna bring justice. First to Anizotte, then to the whole Empire. She's gonna tear down the old ways and wipe them tyrants and nobles from the face of this world. The mob explodes into an ecstatic chant. They shout one word over and over again. Sophia! Sophia! The enormous throng bellows wildly, eager to see the face of its leader. So, overthrow Sophia. Yes, oh, it only cost me 5 willpower. Okay. So it knocks the revolt down by 2, which is fine, so because that just needs to be a 6. Troops, it knocks it down to 2, which again is fine because that only needs to be at 2. Common folk go up, which it's already maxed out. Perfect. You make your way through the crowd and reach the Chancellery stairs. Your silhouette seems to blaze in the light of the setting sun. You raise a clenched fist into the air, demanding silence, your voice booming. You make your proclamation. Sophia is no longer the leader of the revolt. I, Nicolaus Brante, lead you now. The people freeze in astonishment when they hear this. A murmur of discontent spreads throughout the crowded square. Who does this Brante guy think he is? We follow Sophia, not you. The discontent grows, but you refuse to relent. Sophia was leading our city to destruction, slaughter, and death. Had she remained in charge, it would have meant suffering for us all. You're gathered here not to revel in revenge or destruction, but for the first time in history, you have what it takes to lay the foundation of a new world. A world where justice is the same for all, where all estates are equal, where we are free of the lots. You will defend this city, you will fend off the Legion, you will persevere and show the Empire that you are a force to be reckoned with. And once they finally realise they have no choice but to reckon with you, they will reckon with all the commoners of the Empire. You end your speech, exhausted and hoarse. The murmur fades away. All fear and uncertainty are gone. The thousands of people in the square are no longer suspicious of you. They're hopeful once more. You can see it in their eyes. Then come the first shouts. Lead us, Brante! We're right behind you! Brante! Nicolaus Brante! These are some fickle bitches. Suddenly, a loud, shrill cry resounds behind you, cutting through the cheers. Traitor! Death to the traitor Brante! I hate that noise so very much. The crowd falls silent. All eyes are on the figure descending from the Chancellery stairs. Twin sepia flames smoulder in the young woman's eyes. Brante is lying to you people. You follow him, you'll be slaves until the end of time. Don't you know that our enemy can't be bargained with? First they'll throw us a bone to restore order, and then they'll get even stronger and tighten the nooses around our necks. We can't reason with them. We have to destroy them. Today is the first day of a new era. We'll begin by taking back our city. We will eliminate anyone who dares to stand in our way. Then we will declare war against the old regime, against the entire empire. No mercy. Upon hearing these words, even the most frantic rebels fall silent. A frightened murmur ripples through the crowd. Is Sophia asking them to take on the entire world? That noise is so much worse. Sophia raises her arms skyward. Her eyes are like 2 blazing suns. Anyone who turns tail and runs is an enemy of the revolt. Our enemy. The crowd remains silent, transfixed by Sophia's glowing gaze. No one will dare to utter a word against her now. This is your last chance to take action before the entire mob turns on you. You take a deep breath and scream at the top of your lungs. She's a witch! It's a witchcraft! Sophia's using magic to control your minds. Incredulous murmurs spread throughout the crowd. You shout as loud as you can. Sophia is just as much of a tyrant as though she wants to overthrow. She will take away your old shackles and replace them with magical ones. She doesn't care about the people. She only wants one thing, to watch the world burn. The thousands of eyes around you no longer reflect Sophia's golden glow. Confusion spreads among the people. Who should they listen to? Then the shouts begin. Burn the lying witch! She wants us all dead! Desperate for support, Sophia glances back at her gang. Enough of this. Kill Brante and his lapdogs. The time for words has passed. The last straw soldiers reach for their guns, but you're already shouting orders. Your battalions advance on them. The mob is split by the ensuing chaos. Some commoners defend Sophia's cause, while others side with you. More still flee the square as fast as their legs can carry them. The last straw. Ready, aim, fire. Rebel squads dash out of the chancellery, firearms in hand. The volleys come in quick succession. A hail of bullets hit the square, sparing no one from either side. Commoners trying to escape die along with your soldiers. Dozens of people fall to the ground in the mindlessly jostling throng, only to be trampled by the fleeing horde. Blood runs down the cobblestones. The corpses of those killed dissipate in shimmering mist. The battle is a short one. The firearms hold back your assault, the enemy's bullets taking your men out one by one. But you outflank Sophia's forces and engage them in hand-to-hand combat. The surviving insurgents drop their weapons and beg you not to execute them. They're willing to fight on your side and hand their leader over to you. Sophia is quickly bound and hurled to the ground at your feet. The rebel leader glares at you from beyond a mass of tangled hair. You remind the wounded soldiers that time is of the essence. You must dispose of Sophia for good. The time has come for the people's cause. You command your squad to stand Sophia against the wall of the chancellery and take aim. Sophia scrambles to her feet with difficulty. Her face is a hideous mask of bruises. Too bad it took me so long to figure out what you really are, Brante. Too bad. But this ain't over yet. Before you know it, you'll be burning in the fire I started. You and this whole ugly world. Bitter tears run down Sophia's cheeks. For a split second, you see the frightened girl from next door pursued by terrifying horsemen. You cut Sophia off and address what remains of the mob. It's time for Sophia to stand trial. They will judge her in the name of the people of Anizotte. This woman was plotting to destroy the city and start a bloodbath that would doom us all, commoners and other estates alike. For the sake of the people, Sophia must be sentenced to true death. People of Anizotte, what say you? Death! A volley of gunshots. Sophia is hurled against the wall. Shaking violently, she collapses to the ground. Her eyes, which had shone with a livid yellow glow just moments ago, are extinguished forever. The soldiers slowly lower their firearms. You turn to the silent crowd. The verdict of the People's Court has been carried out. The citizens have saved Anizotte from death and destruction. Tonight, we must also save it from the Legion. We will no longer be led by Sophia's blind hatred. We will stand firm. We know what we're fighting for. You see hope return to the faces of disconcerted people. They were shaken by Sophia's death, but you showed them a new goal, and they have cast their fears aside. Lead us, Brante! Even the old guard of the last straw, who have always been loyal to Sophia, will follow you. The Revolt City has accepted you as its new leader. Meanwhile, the watchmen at the gate bring news. The Legion is only a few hours away. The final battle is drawing near. Will the outcome of the revolt be decided in combat, or is there a peaceful solution? It all depends on the actions you take in the coming hours. Okay, so stat-wise, we are all good. Bye-bye! Let's do this. Let's get this done. Bye-bye! The final hour. It's mere moments from midnight. The glow of the shining pillar is barely visible behind the crimson clouds coming in from the north, but the darkness hanging above the city is dissipated by countless lights. Crowds of people holding torches, stakes burning in the square, houses in flames. The glow of the fires can also be seen from beyond the city walls. The Legion marches down the road, inexorably approaching the gate of the city in the throes of rebellion. The final battle draws near. All the forces that have chosen to defy the Overseer and the Empire flock to the city gate, where you have set up your base. The soldiers of the last straw assemble commoners into squads and hastily arm them. Other rebels are led by nobles of the mantle and former members of the Legion who have joined the revolt. The priests who have sided with you will spread the word of the twins from the city walls, attempting to convince the Legion soldiers to retreat and allow the people of Anizotte to be free of the lots. Preparations are also in full swing at the camp of the defenders of the Old Order, who have established a foothold in the ruins of Shah Malanadash's palace. Soon their fate will be decided. Will they crush the revolt with the aid of the Legion, or be crushed themselves by the new era? There's almost no time left. Just enough for one last attempt to tip the scales in your favour. Will you spend this final hour appealing to one of your allies for help? Or will it be wiser to wait and muster your forces for the final battle? Will you attempt to defeat the Legion and the Overseer's army in combat? Or persuade them to retreat without engaging in battle? The fate of Anizotte is in your hands. Okay, so if I muster my forces, that gets me 10 willpower, which is pretty cool. We'll go see Borne, which ups Revolt and Nobles, neither of which need to be, so I'm going to take the willpower. Seems like a good idea. This day has already turned out to be the most arduous of your entire life, and the hardest part is yet to come. You need to take advantage of this lull to clear your mind. Who knows, perhaps your inner strength is what will decide the outcome of the coming clash. You walk away from the army's noisy preparations, sit on a parapet and watch the city burn. Off in the distance, you can just make out the district where you were born and raised. Your memories bring you back to a time when you first walked these streets. In your mind's eye, you see the young faces of Thomas, Stefan, Gloria, but that's all in the past now. Midnight strikes. You hear the menacing tread of the Legion outside the city walls. The time has come. You order your troops to assemble and prepare to defend the wall. Okay, let's do this. Bubble! The Battle for Anizotte. The dark void between the walls of Anizotte is lit by hundreds of lights. Heavy boots tread the soil, armour clanks, halberds gleam, drums beat a lively march. Lit by the glow of the torches, the Magran Legion approaches the city walls. The Imperial army finally arrives to put an end to this unfathomable revolt. Gaius Tempest himself leads the Legion. It's the Overseer's duty to crush the revolt this very night, and pacify the city before news of the incident spreads throughout the Empire. If the Overseer's hesitation allows the revolt to last even a few days, it could jeopardise not only his position, but even the fate of the entire province that's been entrusted to him. The entire city rebelling against Imperial rule? Nothing like this has happened for generations. The decisions you made today have compelled most of the people of Anizotte to join the revolt. By nightfall, the rebels have gained the upper hand. The defenders of the Empire have no hope of victory. They may have amassed a considerable army to fight the revolt, but they've come too late. The troops loyal to the Empire have reached an impasse. The entire city has risen against them. Exhausted and demoralised by the futile fight, many Imperial loyalists leave their camp or surrender to the rebels. Only the inexorably approaching Legion separates the revolt from total victory. The time for rioting and lawlessness has passed. Now all the forces of the revolt have joined forces in pursuit of a single goal: to hold the city. The main forces of the revolt maintain order in their camp with a firm hand. There are still many insurgents who are ready to fight to the true death for their cause. The soldiers of the last straw. Reckless conspirators and dangerous fighters taught by Sophia to struggle against the old order until the bitter end. Zealous new believers who would rather face execution than betray their faith. Poor nobles and former Legion soldiers who have joined the revolt in violation of their oath of loyalty to the Empire. They know there'll be no mercy for them, so they have nothing to lose. All the remaining rebel forces gather at a fortified base by the city gates. The rebels have surrounded it with barricades, preparing to repel an attack from either side. The soldiers of the revolt, some armed with spears and axes, some with firearms, and some with simple rocks, hastily assemble atop the walls. The Legion gets into formation in front of the gate, ready to begin the assault as soon as their commander gives the order. The defenders atop the wall respond by raising their firearms. A herald from Gaius Tempest comes forward, stopping mere steps from the gate. He loudly proclaims the Overseer's demands. "My subjects, lay down your arms this instant and open the gate. I know that you have been deceived by the insurgency. You have my word as an Arcanian ruler that I will spare anyone who aids the Legion and turns over the leaders of this revolt. Should you disobey this order from your lawful ruler, none of you will escape disgrace, execution, and eternal torment at the foot of the Shining Pillar." The Legion herald proudly lifts his head, awaiting the rebels' decision. You cast a quick glance at your allies. The time for preparations has ended. Everything depends on the size of your army and the balance in the city between the forces you've managed to win over and those you've antagonised. The next hour will determine your place in history. Okay, well, let's just dive into the revolt. So we have achieved peace. So we can either defeat the Legion, or we can defend the city. Let's defeat the Legion. We'll do defend the city another time. In fact, because this is probably going to be a shorter video, I might come back and do that in this video as well. Just to see what it says, and to get the achievement, obviously. Muskets in hand, the soldiers on the walls freeze in anticipation, awaiting your decision. For the last time, you consider the consequences. The fate of Anizotte depends on your reply. You cast a glance over the imposing ranks of your rebel troops. Every last commoner has sided with the revolt. You know your answer. From atop the city gates, you proclaim that the Overseer no longer has any subjects in this city. From this day forth, Anizotte is free. Hundreds of allies roar in support behind you. We're no servants of yours anymore. Get lost. The Herald silently retreats to the Legion formation. There's a brief moment of quiet. Holding your breath, you watch the menacing enemy army. Finally, the silence is broken by a drum roll and the stamping of thousands of feet. The Legion is about to attack. To arms. While your soldiers are preparing to face the Legion assault, you consider your plan to defend your position. You swiftly give orders to the squad on the wall, as though placing toy soldiers. The fortress of Anizotte has withstood many an assault. These stones saw many battles before the foundation of the Empire. The Legion, on the other hand, rushed here equipped with nothing but jerry-rigged siege ladders. Gaius Tempus needs to pacify this city this very night. Therefore, his soldiers will try to make their way over the wall, open the gate from the inside, and let the main forces in. Legion, attack! The Overseer sends his first battalions at the walls closest to the gate. The Archnean remains with his elite cavalry, observing the assault from afar. You order the gunmen to take cover behind their merlins. The rest of the soldiers need to throw back the siege ladders, no matter the cost. Not a single legionnaire can be allowed to scale the wall. From atop the gate, you watch intently as the ranks of the Legion begin the assault. When the time is right, you order your gunmen to fire. The first ranks of Legion soldiers are felled by rebel muskets. Most of their bodies glow dimly and turn to ash, but some remain where they lay. Legion veterans who have met their fourth and true death. The gunfire is followed by a volley of stones and arrows. The wave hits the wall and recedes. The first attempt to storm the walls has been thwarted. The rebels jeer at the retreating Legion soldiers, but you urge them to stay alert. That was just the beginning. Ready? Take the wall. Come on, men, they're just commoners. They don't stand a chance against you. The Legion begins its second attack. This time, Gaius Tempus sends 2 battalions of heavy infantry at the wall to the left of the gate. They're followed by archers. Not even gunshots can stop this attack. The ladders fly up. A hail of arrows pelt your positions. Hold the line. The defenders on the walls attempt to throw the ladders back, hurling stones at their assailants and pouring boiling oil on them. But the onslaught is too strong. One by one, the Legion soldiers begin to leap from the ladders and onto the city walls. If you falter now, all is lost. You gather your best men and send them against the Legion soldiers. The walls erupt into bloody mayhem. All over the walls, the bodies of the fallen fade into brilliant flashes of light. You and your soldiers desperately hack, shoot, and hurl enemies from the walls. The siege ladders fall onto the ground below. The attack has been repelled. Twice more, Gaius Tempus orders his troops to attack the wall. Twice more, the walls are stained with blood. Twice more, your soldiers withstand the onslaught. The dawn is drawing near. Even from your position on the walls, you see the Legion soldiers slowly, hesitantly regrouping for their next attack. Desperate, the Overseer himself steps forward to address his demoralised troops. Are you really afraid of some commoners who can barely hold a weapon? Don't fear them, you fools! Fear the wrath of the Emperor. Fear the wrath of the Tempests. It's your sacred duty to re-establish Imperial rule in Anizotte. The city will fall, and its pathetic rebellion will be crushed. Go forth. I will lead the charge myself. The Overseer raises his ancient sword high above his head. The Legion soldiers shudder. No member of the royal family has taken up arms in centuries. The first rays of the rising sun appear on the horizon, breaking through the grey storm clouds, led by its royal commander. The Legion begins its decisive attack. Ragged, covered in blood, barely able to stand, you get the surviving soldiers back on their feet and order them to defend the city one last time. Not even the twins themselves could get through this gate. But the time for speeches has passed. There's now only smoke, blood, and the clanking of swords. All you can do now is fight and win. You see the Imperial banner flutter before you. The Legion soldiers are scaling the wall, the Overseer himself first among them. It's now or never. You and your men rush towards the banner. You will capture Gaius Tempest. Sensing that victory is close at hand, your warriors use their last ounce of strength to break through to the enemy commander. The Legionnaires try to form a defensive ring around the Overseer, but the enraged rebels dash them aside like toy soldiers. Gaius Tempest is surrounded. Wielding his sword masterfully, he slays one rebel after another, but eventually the overwhelming onslaught forces him to drop his blade. The Archnean nobleman freezes, seemingly unable to believe that this is really happening. The Imperial banner falls from the wall behind him. The Legion soldiers abandon their ladders and flee. You have won. The surviving defenders of the walls lean against the Merlins, exhausted or simply collapse. Down by the gates you hear triumphant shouts. Like a wave, they roll further, over the streets and squares, over the entire city. Victory. Anizotte has won its freedom. So I think up until this point, or maybe up until a little bit further on, this is kind of the same as I got with the Lotless, except that then led on to basically me and Sophia sweeping across the land, murdering everybody. Which hopefully this no longer ends that way. Escorted by your royal allies, you approach your prisoner. Overseer Gaius Tempest glares at you icily. There is genuine bitterness in his voice. Madmen, you have doomed your city. It will be destroyed. I was not your enemy until you forced me to send my army against you. One step at a time, I would have changed this province. I would have made your lives better. But now the entire force of the Empire is about to come crashing down on you. The punishment for your insolence will be terrible indeed. You remind the Archnean that he, the Overseer of Margra and the brother of the Emperor himself, is currently your hostage. The authorities will have no choice but to negotiate with you, and as long as Anizotte remains free, news of your victory will spread throughout the Empire. Other cities will rise up in rebellion throughout Margra. And then what? Do you want the entire world at war? What will become of the Empire after your revolt? You look back at your city, lit by the rising dawn of a new day. You tell your former ruler that the Empire is about to change, and whatever that change might entail, it will be better than the old order. Better than never-ending injustice, tyranny, and cruelty. The days of the old regime have ended. You will find your own way to the new world, along with all the people of the Empire. Gaius Tempest turns away, refusing to dignify your speech with a response. You order your men to take him away. Finally, you lean against the wall and take a deep breath. Is it over? No. A new era begins today. Yeah, that is different because with the Lotless ending, I slit his throat. You look back at the years gone by, all the difficult decisions you had to make, all the actions that helped you take your place in history. You are Nicolaus Brante, the man who brought victory to the Anizotte Revolt. Your destiny has been fulfilled. Achievement! Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect.
The revolt succeeded, and the city rejoiced in triumph. I was the one to bring the people their victory.
Me. 'Twas I. A new day dawns. Let's see what the old man has to say. So we have a chat with an old fella who is almost certainly the elder of the twins. Okay, so what would we say we would do if we had the twins' control? Leave the world alone. What have we not done before? So you would take better care of the world, see your free mortals from the lot. I'm going to say take better care of the world, because I don't think we've done this before. So we'll see what the long-standing ramifications of that are. Outcome of the revolt. You took command of Anizotte and routed the Legion. The rebels celebrated. For the first time in history, the Imperial army was powerless against the will of the common people. Now, Anizotte would become a free city ruled by its people, where all estates would be equal. The rebellious city would have been crushed by the Empire's superior forces had it not been for your most eminent hostage, Gaius Tempest, the Overseer of Margra and the Emperor's own brother. Many in the Emperor's court were furious. They urged His Majesty Uther II to drown Anizotte in blood and crush the rebellion with no hopes of parley. But the Emperor could not see his brother die, so he never gave the order to besiege the city. The negotiations for Gaius Tempest's life and freedom took quite some time. As they drew out, the news of the revolt reached even the most remote provinces. More and more towns and villages learned from the lessons of Anizotte. Their citizens began to arm themselves and join the revolt. The Imperial army began a frantic campaign to douse the flames of unrest, but it was all in vain. The legions suffered defeats after defeats. The powerful nobles eventually grew vexed with the Emperor and his dynasty, and power struggles broke out in the capital. Then a shocking event shook the Empire to its core. Emperor Uther II was found dead in his palace, never to be reborn. His heirs, Gerion and Flavius, both disappeared without a trace. With no one to take the throne, the noble dynasties accused one another of plotting against the Tempest rule. Feuds and internecine strife became commonplace. Meanwhile, the rebellion only grew stronger. Soon the banner of the revolt could be seen even in the most remote corners of the Empire. The lands that won freedom from noble tyranny and the Lots formed a defensive alliance called the League of Equals, but the old rulers were loath to see their power slip between their fingers. More and more soldiers gathered beneath the banners of the old Archaean dynasties. The Empire has been split in half. War is coming. Regardless of the outcome, the world will never be the same again. If I'd have gone for the defend the city, I wonder if that would have been like a victory, but then we get besieged and ultimately end up losing anyway. I'm intrigued to see that, which, we will. Very soon. Power. The common estate achieved its goals and won the rights and freedoms it sought. Liberated from the noble yoke, the people of Anizotte became a force to be reckoned with. The old restrictions imposed on industrialists and merchants of the common lot were lifted. The lands and estates of the noble families that fled the city were seized. Now the citizens had to learn to govern their city and manage their lives all on their own. The coming war doesn't frighten the people of Anizotte. They're already rallying other cities in the province to their cause. They'll not surrender their hard-earned freedom without a fight. Church. The clash between the old faith and the new continued, and the schism in the clergy grew. The people of Margra remain similarly divided. Neither doctrine has enough power to prevail over the other, so the venomous accusations and fervent disputes continue. The Inquisition is powerless to end the struggle. The strife between the faiths will continue to fester. The people of the province and the Empire will never be at peace until they decide which path of worship is the one that leads to the twins. Wealth even, not well. The changes that swept across Margra brought down the age-old barriers that held the common people back, paving way for trade and industry. The new freedoms have made Margra one of the most prosperous lands of the Empire, with new factories, mills and trade routes appearing one after another. The city of Anizotte soon becomes a vital trade hub, the only place to procure the best and newest commodities, tools and factory equipment. The wealth of its citizens is unrivaled throughout the Empire. Order. The years of unrest have left its mark on Margra. People no longer fear or respect the rule of law. Disorder continues to spread through the land. The only thing capable of maintaining an unsteady balance is brute force, as carnage, riots, and disdain for the law continue to plague the province. It will be a long time before Margra has a chance at peace again. Divine omens. The Anizotte revolt was followed by more omens that shook the Empire. The shining pillar grew closer and closer, its ever-present light becoming strong enough to be seen under any sky, even through the thickest clouds. Those who prayed to the twins soon realised that they were listening carefully to their every word and deed. The twins will watch over the blessed Archaean Empire and tends to it for all time. Okay, interesting. So what became of Dorius Otten? He dead. Until the very end, the Archaean commander refused to acknowledge that the laws that governed the lowly lot held sway over him too. And yet, thanks to you, he finally faced justice. The once renowned descendant of the Otton dynasty met an ignoble end on the gallows, a terrible blow from which his family never recovered. With the death of its last living son, the venerable Otton blood tide ran dry. Such a shame. Prefect Augustine Elborne's dream finally came true. The revolt gave him a chance to create a new society in Margra. He dedicated his final years to transforming his home city and province. With the aid of the former judge, the city abandoned the barbaric traditions of the nobility and established a rule of law over the people. Through Elborne's enormous contribution, the new popular governance of Anizotte grew strong, which earned him tremendous respect among the people. Prefect Elborne died of old age, surrounded by friends and family. He's remembered as one of the leaders of the revolt and a luminary of the New Age. Octavia. Having fallen into the hands of the Inquisition, Octavia was doomed. After an extensive, lengthy, and brutal interrogation, they burned this strange being at the stake for the crime of heresy. Oh, I'm sorry. Not even the Archduchess's noble birth could spare her from the punishment of the Church. The Inquisition proclaimed that Octavia Melanidas had died long ago, her mortal body occupied by an abhorrent monstrosity spawned from the ancient past. They say that the creature that was once Octavia Melanidas remained silent during the execution, even as its body was engulfed in flames. There was nothing left of Octavia, not even ashes. The Brontes. The Bronte family fell apart. Rent asunder by squabbling and strife, your family home grew desolate and empty long ago. None of you ever found a way to make peace, and in the end, your old grudges were stronger than the blood you shared. You remained strangers for the rest of your lives. Oh man. Robert. After his family fell apart, Robert Bronte left Margra for the northern provinces. There, in another city, he found employment as the local prefecture as an assistant judge. The minor post allowed Robert to eke out a humble existence, far from any power struggles or social turmoil. His family woes, once the root of his unending suffering, were finally behind him, leaving him with nothing but bitter memories. He remained alone for the rest of his life and passed away in solitude. Oh, Padre. Stefan. Having severed all ties with the family, Stefan had no reason to remain in Anizotte. After abandoning his aspirations for the Bronte bloodline, he fully dedicated himself to his own ambitions. Your former brother took on a new name, Stefan L. Borne. He moved to the capital and began working hard to earn himself a place in the Emperor's court. But in the end, Stefan was too plain-spoken to survive in the realm of courtly intrigue. His bold and ambitious nature swiftly earned him a plethora of enemies at court. Before long, he was falsely accused of plotting against the crown. Stefan's attempt to exonerate himself proved futile, and his life and honour met an ignoble end. Whoops. Gloria. After that unforgettable quarrel at the Bronte home, Gloria left Anizotte to travel the Empire. She hoped to see the life of the common folk firsthand and transcribe the truth in her travel notes. The news of the revolt back in Anizotte reached Gloria during her trip through the province of Illyria. She seized the opportunity right away and sparked an uprising against the crown among the local commoners. However, the province's noble militia swiftly suppressed the riots. Gloria was captured and sentenced to hard labour in the mines for life. But not even hard labour could stop Gloria. She did her best to inspire her fellow prisoners and rise up against their captors. But rather than share her fervour, the other labourers turned her in, hoping for a reduced sentence. Gloria fought tooth and nail against the old ways, but she did not live long enough to see whether or not her efforts ever bore fruit. Instead, she met a swift and ignoble end. Everyone's meeting ignoble ends. Nathan. Your younger brother survived the revolt. When it passed, he found the strength to start his life anew. You had given him a glimmer of hope that he nurtured within his soul, and one day that spark brought him to the doorstep of a temple of the new faith. Free to choose his own lot, Nathan became a priest and dedicated his life to serving the twins. He left his aimless past behind and finally found a purpose. The suffering he had endured in his spirit quest became a source of wisdom. Nathan's renown as a new faith preacher quickly grew, and he helped hundreds of tormented souls find their way to the twins. What became of me? I was elected by the people of the Council of Anizotte, along with the other leaders of the revolt. It was a heavy burden to bear, but it was necessary in order to overcome the city's challenges on the path to building a new society. And so you devoted the rest of your life to preserving the freedoms you had won, and building a new and just order in Anizotte. When Anizotte became a free city, you became its supreme judge. Your quill inked laws that became the foundation of modern Anizotte. The people of the Empire came to know you as the quintessential enlightened gentleman, a man seeking equality and justice for all, an example followed by many young officials, civil servants, soldiers, and officers. You are remembered as the liberator of Anizotte and the creator of the first unified code of law applicable to all estates. So ends the life and suffering of Nicholas Brante. And this time I am going to the peak of the pillar once more, because I deserve it. When I do a bad guy run through, I will go to the foot of the pillar, but I feel like I don't deserve it. Cool, right, that's done. Let's go back in time, shall we? I'm going to go back to the start of the revolt, do everything exactly the same as I just did, but we're going to defend the city this time and just see where that leads us. I'm imagining it's probably not going to end as well as this one has. Okay, so this time we are going to defend the city. Your troops will protect the city against the first assault of the Imperial forces, but this battle will not be the last. I am very intrigued to see how this plays out. Muskets in hand, the soldiers on the walls freeze in anticipation, awaiting your decision. For the last time, you consider the consequences. The fate of Anizotte depends on your reply. You cast a glance over the imposing ranks of your rebel forces. Most of Anizotte's commoners have already sided with the revolt. You know your answer. From atop the city gate, you proclaim that the Overseer no longer has any subjects in this city. From this day forth, Anizotte is free. Hundreds of allies roar in support behind you. We're no servants of yours anymore. Get lost. The herald silently retreats to the Legion formation. There's a brief moment of quiet. Holding your breath, you watch the menacing enemy army. Finally, the silence is broken by a drum roll and the stamping of thousands of feet. The Legion's about to attack. To arms. While your soldiers are preparing to face the Legion assault, you consider your plan to defend your position. You swiftly give orders to the squads on the wall as though placing toy soldiers. The fortress of Anizotte has withstood many an assault. These stones saw many battles before the foundation of the Empire. The Legion, on the other hand, rushed here equipped with nothing but jerry-rigged siege ladders. Gaius Tempest needs to pacify the city this very night. Therefore, his soldiers will try to make their way over the wall, open the gate from inside, and let the main forces in. This goes without saying, this bit's probably going to be exactly the same, but I'm going through it. I don't want to jump ahead, so I'm just going through it. Legion, attack! The Overseer sends his first battalions at the walls closest to the gates. The Archnian remains with his elite cavalry, observing the assault from afar. You order the gunmen to take cover behind the Merlins. The rest of the soldiers need to throw back the siege ladders, no matter the cost. Not a single legionnaire can be allowed to scale this wall. From atop the gate, you watch intently as the ranks of the Legion begin the assault. When the time is right, you order your gunmen to fire. The first ranks of Legion soldiers are felled by rebel muskets. Most of their bodies glow dimly and turn to ash, but some remain where they lay, Legion veterans who have met their fourth and true death. The gunfire is followed by a volley of stones and arrows. The wave hits the wall and recedes. The first attempt to storm the walls has been thwarted. The rebels jeer at the retreating Legion soldiers, but you urge them to stay alert. That was just the beginning. Ready? Check the walls, come on men, they're just commoners. They don't stand a chance against you. The Legion begins its second attack. This time, Gaius Tempest sends 2 battalions of heavy infantry to the wall to the left of the gate. They're followed by archers. Not even gunshots can stop this attack. The ladders fly up. A hail of arrows pelt your positions. Hold the line. The defenders on the walls attempt to throw the ladders back, hurling stones at their assailants and pouring boiling oil on them. But the onslaught is too strong. One by one, Legion soldiers begin to leap from the ladders and onto the city walls. If you falter now, all is lost. You gather your best men and send them against the Legion soldiers. The walls erupt in bloody mayhem. All over the walls, the bodies of the fallen fade into brilliant flashes of light. You and your soldiers desperately hack, shoot, and hurl enemies from the walls. The siege ladders fall to the ground below. The attack has been repelled. Twice more, Gaius Tempest orders his troops to attack the wall. Twice more, the walls are stained with blood. Twice more, your soldiers withstand the onslaught. The enemy cannot break through your defences. The dawn is drawing near. Even from your position on the wall, you can see how slowly and hesitantly the Legion soldiers reform their ranks. The Overseer himself appears hunched over, deflated. You order your men to freeze. You need to hear the enemy commander's orders to his troops. Legion, you have fought valiantly. I have nothing to reproach you with, but I do not want any more loss of life. We cannot take the city today. We will retreat. The bewildered murmur ripples through the ranks of the Legion. But soon we will return in much greater numbers and restore lawful imperial rule in Anizotte. Gaius Tempest turns to face the city and proclaims loudly, so that you can hear every word he utters. Madmen, you have doomed your city. It will be destroyed. I was not your enemy. I gave you a path to salvation, but you spurned my gracious offer. Now all the might of the Empire will be upon you. The punishment for this insolence will be terrible indeed. The soldiers respond with impudent mockery. Beat it. Get lost, Blueface. You don't in charge no more. You can't tell us what to do. The Overseer disregards their mocking cries. Legion, marching formation. Gaius Tempest casts one final glance at the walls of Anizotte and leaps into his saddle. The Legion gets into formation and marches away from the city. You have won. The surviving defenders of the wall lean against the Merlins, exhausted or simply collapse. Down by the gates you hear triumphant shouts. Like a wave they roll further, over the streets and squares, over the entire city. You have won. Anizotte has repelled the attack. The city is free. Leading your loyal supporters, you come down from the walls. You're ragged, wounded, barely able to stand. You have achieved the unthinkable. Not only have you freed your city from centuries of slavery, you've defended it against the Overseer himself. At least for now, anyway. Gaius Tempest is right. Now Anizotte will have to face the entire Imperial army. But you've won the first battle, and you will continue the fight. Even completely surrounded, even with no hope of winning, there's no turning back. And if your mission is doomed to fail, you would rather die for it than keep enduring perpetual injustice, tyranny, and cruelty. You look back at your city, lit by the rising dawn of a new day, leaning against the wall. You take a deep breath. Is it over? No. The fight for Anizotte has just begun, and even if you're not destined to see it finished, you have played your part in this story. You think about the years gone by, all the difficult decisions you had to make, all the actions that helped you take your place in the annals of history. You, Nicholas Brante, are the reason the city of Anizotte rebelled against Imperial rule and stood its ground against the Legion. Your destiny has been fulfilled. Okay. Achievement. Let's see how this plays out. My guess is not well.
We managed to defend the city, wresting our freedom from the clutches of the Empire. But for how long?
That's a good question. I'm going to just say nothing to the old man this time because, again, I don't think I've ever done that. You're too tired for this. No time for your shit, old man. Okay. The outcome of the revolt. Again, you took control of Anizotte and fended off the Legion's attack. The rebellious city remained yours. The rebels celebrated. For the first time in history, the Imperial army was powerless against the will of the common people. Now, Anizotte would become a free city ruled by its people, where all estates would be equal. But the leaders of the revolt barely had time to establish this new rule before the city was surrounded again, this time by armies and noble militias from nearby provinces. The Imperial authorities preferred to see the rebellious city razed to the ground rather than let it foment further unrest. You fended off their assaults one by one, then came a long and grueling siege. Supplies soon ran thin, the rebels' morale began to decline. With each passing day, it became harder and harder to maintain order on the streets. New traitors appeared one after another, eager to open the gates of the enemy in exchange for a pardon. Illness, hunger, and despair gripped Anizotte. After a year-long siege, the rebellious city fell. The Imperial army finally managed to breach the gates, ready to punish Anizotte cruelly for its impudence. By the Emperor's own order, the city was made an example of for the rest of the Empire. All the leaders of the revolt were hanged, and many more rank-and-file rebels were tortured or executed. The Legion established strict martial law in Anizotte, and this uncompromising rule continued for many years. Once the rebellion had been silenced, the province finally entered a time of peace. The common folk were finally pacified, and no one else had the nerve to lead an armed insurgency against the Overseer's lawful war. And yet, the year of Anizotte's freedom from the Empire made its mark. In time, the rest of the Empire learned of the just and lawful system the rebels had established in the rebellious city, no matter how briefly. The Crown worked hard to stamp out the very memory of the revolt, but its efforts were in vain. The tale of the Anizotte revolt took root in the hearts of people, sowing seeds of hope. They hoped for a new revolt, someday, somewhere. A revolt that would emerge victorious. Okay. I mean, that ended exactly as I thought it was going to end. Power. The common estate achieved its goals and won the rights to freedom it sought. Liberated from the noble yoke, the people of Anizotte became a force to be reckoned with. The old restrictions imposed on industrialists and merchants of the common lot were lifted. The lands and estates of the noble families that fled the city were seized. Now the citizens had to learn to govern the city and manage their lives all on their own. I mean, this seems completely untrue. Because, I mean, that while they did, they also all died. The coming war does not frighten the people of Anizotte. No, it doesn't, because they're dead. Wealth. The changes that swept across Magra brought down the age-old barriers that held the common people back. paving way for trade and industry. Again, not true, because the city was literally under siege. None of this is true. This is all wrong. Okay, this makes sense, that Margaret is a little bit disorganised at the moment because of chaos. Divine omens. See what this has done. For many years after the revolt in Anizotte, the people of the Empire told the tale of how the Elder Twin himself visited the mortal world once again. He donned the guise of a common mortal to seek the truth of his own creation and settle a dispute with the younger. But no one helped him find the answer he sought. And so, the legend goes, the Elder Twin returned to the Shining Pillar, never to descend to the mortal realm again. I mean, he asked one person. Me. And I didn't have time for that shit. Okay, Riotous is dead. We know this. Augustine L. Borne. Prefect Augustine L. Borne came incredibly close to fulfilling his lifelong dream. The revolt gave him the opportunity to usher in a new kind of society, but the Prefect did not live to see it. He joined the rest of Anizotte's defenders in the final fight. The Prefect was captured and stripped of his noble title for the crime of treason, then hanged in disgrace. L. Borne faced death with dignity and did not utter a single word of regret for what he'd done. The former Prefect is remembered as one of the leaders of the revolt, though he did not live long enough to witness the coming of a new age. Yeah, I've just skipped over everything else because it was all exactly the same. So, what became of me? By taking charge of the city's defences against all odds, you doomed yourself in an uneven fight against the far superior might of the Empire. The people chose you as the first and only governor of the free city of Anizotte. Under your leadership, the city's free militia managed to fend off many assaults by Legion forces from all across the Empire. Even as the city grew worn and desperate throughout the never-ending siege, you remained there to make the sacrifices that had to be made and maintain order within its walls. But there came a day when the city's defenders finally had no more strength left to fight. At last, the Imperial legions breached your defences. You fought on the walls of Anizotte until you could no longer stand and were captured alive. By the order of Emperor Uther II himself, you were brought to Eterna, where you were brutally executed as a lesson to other would-be enemies of the Tempest dynasty's rule. You faced that reckoning proudly and without fear. You knew that the cause you had fought for would live on. So ended the life and suffering of Nicolaus Brante. Yeah, that pretty much played out exactly as I thought it was going to. I am still going to the top of the pillar though, damn it, you can't stop me. Well, two endings. One of them admittedly much better than the other, but that's kind of the way I figured that was going to go. But that is the noble lot done, but not fully done, because that was the rebellious noble lot. Next video, I'm going to restart at beginning of peacetime, obviously as a judge, but we're going to do more towards the career this time. So then when we end up in the revolt, we're going to side with the Empire and quash the filthy rebellion, grind the rebels into dust, or something to that effect. Don't know. But this has been interesting. It's been very, very interesting to see how different this was compared to the other ones. I kind of knew it was going to be different because this game has just constantly been throwing new things at us, but it's very, very cool. I'm very intrigued to see the slight deviances by following career, because obviously there were a few events that happened because my career was too low and my justice was too high. So obviously we'll flip that on its head and we'll see what happens. Probably something horrible, but either way, we'll find out. So, if you want to check this out for yourself, then the link to the game page is in the description. If there's a certain route you think I should take, or something you're just interested in seeing, then let me know, leave me a comment, and I will make sure to add it to my list. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then why don't you go ahead and the like button, the good ending, bad ending combo that is the subscribe button, make sure you that bad boy. And until next time, love you, bye.